Hi, George here. Let's talk about this thing right up here, Layers panel, right-hand side, and it says Normal. If you've not played with this, these are the blend modes that allow you to blend one layer into another. Now, right now I can't do anything because I only have just one layer in here. So this requires having more than one layer in your project. Let's do a real fast look at this. I'll just grab a new picture, and let me just grab one here from my recently opened, and this is the one I want. I'll take this and I'll drag it over here. There we go. So I now have two layers inside of this one image. Now, with the blend modes, I can blend one layer into the other layer. It's kind of like using opacity over here. You lower your opacity, and you can then see the layer beneath kind of through it like that. But it's much more advanced than that. It allows you to blend the layers based upon different aspects of what's in the layer. Now, before we move on here, an important announcement. I'm going to be moving all of my new videos for Photoshop Elements over to my new HTG George photo channel. I'll be leaving all the gaming stuff here, all that Minecraft stuff here on HTG George, and putting all of my photo stuff, at least all the new stuff, over there on HTG Photo. So make sure you go over and subscribe to that so you don't miss out on any of the new videos. Old stuff remains here. All the new stuff is going to be over there, and I'll put a link for that in the description so it's easy for you to find. And also take a look at my complete training course for Photoshop Elements. I'll put a link for that in the description as well. That's the best way to learn this great program from Adobe. Okay, if we go up here, and then I'll use the wheel on my mouse. And when you do that, you can just wheel through very quickly and see what the different looks are. Notice that we get some really strange effects. Some are nice, some are unusual, some just don't work at all. And what is going to work or not will depend upon your imagery. For instance, darken. As you can see here, it's only blending the darker areas. The area in here, this part of the horse is a lighter area, so it's not blended. The mane on the horse here is darker, so that is blended. The white patch, can't really see that, but that's the original image back here. We're only blending into the darker areas. Multiply is similar, but it's a little less than that. It's mostly blending in the dark area and not blending in as much the lighter areas, but it often gives you a very nice look like we have right here. This actually works out fairly well. Color burn is an exaggeration effect. It actually exaggerates the colors based upon the other colors. Linear burn and darker color. Again, notice in here where the color is lighter in your background image, there's no blending going on. Where the color is darker, there is blending going on. So it's kind of like doing that opacity, but specific to specific parts of your image or specific colors. Lighten, same exact thing. It's only blending in where the areas are lighter. We're only seeing the background image through the lighter areas. If the area is darker, we're not seeing the background. We're still seeing the foreground. So again, kind of the opposite of our top section up here. And screen, and so forth on down. Now the ones that I tend to use the most, I use multiply a lot. That tends to work out very well. I use linear dodge add quite a bit. And screen sometimes works out well. And then down here, I use overlay quite a bit. So those are fast go-tos for me. But what I will always do is I'll always just use the wheel on my mouse and roll through and look at everything, because sometimes I'll get surprised. Something which I don't think will be working in this may be exactly what I want. So I always go ahead and do a quick roll through. Even though I know what I'll be using most likely, I still double check everything. Okay, let's take a little closer look at how this thing works. And we'll go over here. And I'll take this pattern here, kind of a cow pattern. Now, the reason I'm choosing this is because we have lights and darks, and they're very specific and very separate. So I'll float this one. I'll drag this one over here onto our horse picture, get that out of the way. Let's hide that one. I'm just going to stretch this thing out so that it fits the whole page. There we go. Now, one interesting thing about this is that this is going to blend through everything, not just your top layers. So if I come down to screen, we can see in behind here, there's that kind of foresty look. If I blend this one, I'll do multiply. Notice how the top layer is now blending down through both layers. So you can stack blend modes as well for different interesting effects. Okay, let's just hide that layer. I won't be doing any blending on that one. And I'll put this one back to normal again. Okay, so now take a couple of examples of how you can use this to your advantage and use these blend modes. I tend to use blend modes very frequently in my training. If you watch a lot of my videos, you'll be seeing these things pop up all the time. I'm going to show you just a couple of examples in here. I'm going to hide the horse, and let's delete this layer here. And I'll set this blend mode back to normal. I'll often use a blend mode like this with an image, as I have in here, kind of a black and white image, and I'll use it for special effects work for backgrounds of some of my thumbnails that I use on YouTube. An easy one here is just to put a solid color layer. So make a new layer here, and this is kind of a spooky Halloween look. So I'll grab a nice orange like that, and I'll fill this layer with orange. So we have a solid orange in front of our background, and then I'll use a blend mode between those two and blend between them, and I can get some very interesting looking imagery which can be used for a background for a thumbnail. For instance, this is kind of nice. I could use this with other stuff in front as just the background effect in there. So that's one way to use these blend modes to great effect that I use quite a bit. Another way is to add this to your toolbox when you want to add more content into a picture. For instance, let's go over here. Standard adventure picture. I've used this on a couple of my different videos. Let's say I wanted to add some more clouds into the background, but I want to keep these clouds as well. There are two ways to do that. One is by bringing our new clouds in and then doing an opacity shift on that. And the second is with blend modes. Now for this effect to work, we have to get our foreground separated out from the background. So let's take care of that first. I'll put my colors back to our defaults. There we go. And I'll grab a lasso tool. Let's just use because I want the landscape as well. And I'll take my lasso tool and let's bring it over here and just run this across. I'm using this just because it's fast. It'll need a little bit of fixing, but we can fix that again fairly quickly in here. And for things when you're replacing skies, a fast technique usually works as well as anything else. And since I'll be doing a blending, this will work out even better because it's going to be giving us part of the existing background and part of the new background. So that's going to hide any little imperfections on the edge of our selection. Okay, and I'll just pull this clear around and get everything basically selected in here. We'll have to go back and fix the hair on everybody. Always the case when you're working with this particular tool, it does a very poor job on hair. But that's okay. And we'll pull clear through. And then around outside. Now, the bottom's not very good. This side's not very good. We'll fix that. Back to the beginning. Here's our basic selection. Let's now get these bottom areas. And I'll just switch over here to the regular lasso tool. Let's set this for add. And I'll just come in and do a little lasso around the parts we want to bring back in again. There's that bit across the bottom down here. There we go. Over here on the right-hand side, like that. That's good. Let's now zoom in a bit and see what needs fixing. Okay, our hand right in here, that could use fixing. I want to remove this part, so let's switch over here to subtract. And I'll come in, I'll just freehand this. Again, not that critical on this particular project, but we'll come back and we'll use the refined edge just to help add a little bit. There we go. Need to add this bit in. Let's go back here to add, and I'll grab that quickly. That's good. I'm just doing a real fast look right now for anything which is majorly missed. I'll leave the hair alone for the moment. I'll get that with a refined edge. That all looks good. Let's get her nose in here. We'll come back and clean up the edge of that later on. And it looks like the glasses up here were missed. This is often the case when you're using that magnetic lasso. It's going to be missing a lot of stuff. And I'll get this big chunk of the hair. That's better. To our background, that's fine. Let's check this girl over here. Okay, the hand was missed, so let's add the hand in. Just like this. I don't want to add that part in, so I'll come around like that, and then back up here again. That's fixed, good enough. And we lost part of the shirt right in here. Bring that back in again, and that's good. Okay, I think we're good for the big fixes like that. Let's now move back over here and take care of the hair. We'll switch to the refined edge tool. I'll leave the brush large on this one. I won't bother with any of the settings in here. Again, this is not critical on this particular technique, and you'll see why once we get this thing finished. Now let's brush along the hair and that back section we talked about. There we go. It's real easy in here when you're using the overlay, which is kind of a red tone. to see what you're missing because the background is going to show through a real bright color. And let's just quickly go around this side, get the hair like that, and that should be good enough. Let's get her face in here and her hair. Okay, last little bit was the mountaintops on the right-hand side and a little bit right there. And so these were kind of messed up. Let's get those. You're just brushing over very quickly here with this tool. And then we'll use this to give us a new layer like that. Come down to Selection, New Layer with Layer Mask, Control 0. And basically, this is just removing the background for us. Gives us a new layer up here. I can now put in a new layer in behind above our existing background. If I show the background again, there's the original sky. And right here I have a sky picture. I want to bring this one in. I'm just going to drag this in. Here it is on top. I'll just drag it down underneath. So there's just the new sky by itself. So I can move it around, of course. And I think down lower is better. Get some of these background clouds showing. That looks more natural. But it's just the new sky. I don't have any of the old sky in here. And here's where the blending modes come in really handy. I can actually blend this layer into the background and retain some of those background clouds. Go up here to our blend modes. And I'll just use my wheel on the mouse and I'll go slowly down here. Darken, looks kind of fake. Multiply, not so good. Color burn is too bright on that. Linear burn, again, is going too blue. That still looks kind of fake. Lighten, though, looks pretty natural. As you can see in here, we now have some lighter clouds showing through here. We've added some puffy stuff in here, and we're still seeing the original clouds as well. So we've made the existing sky more interesting by blending in, using the lighten setting here in our background. But I'll keep on going to see what else we have. Screen is just too washed out. Color dodge, no good. Linear dodge, no good. Lighter color, it's okay, but kind of a weird grayish, greenish tinge to those clouds. I don't like that. Overlay looks really nice. We have our new clouds down here. You can see those. We have our old existing clouds. We have some more of the new clouds up here. And the coloration looks like it matches the picture. So here we go. I'm using this overlay mode. So there's the original. And with the overlay blend mode, I'm just bringing in some of those new clouds and making the sky more interesting by giving it a bit more happening in that sky area, but without just taking out the original altogether, which is that. So it allows us to add more interest into the sky here without removing the original sky. So that's one of your main ways here of using these different blend modes. As I mentioned before, a lot of my videos, you'll be seeing me use these blend modes all the time. If you want to learn a lot more about how to use Photoshop Elements, where I get into much more detail on a lot of these different topics, you can get that with my training course, and I'll put a link for that in the description. It really is the best way to learn Photoshop Elements. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, go down there to that button down below, bottom right-hand corner, click on thanks and send me a thanks. Really appreciate that, and I'll see you next time.